What's going on, New York fans? Thanks for tuning in to the G-Man Command Post. I am your host, Gene Sandin, and we've got a lot to talk about in New York. Right now, we have the Knicks. They just dropped Game 2, and a lot of the Knicks fans are really pissed off right now. Yankees are up in Fenway taking on the Red Sox, and the Red Sox fans are going to always be the Red Sox fans. They suck. I hate them. I don't care about anybody else, but I hate them. The Mets are in an 11-game losing streak. I'm not really sure if they won today. Last I checked, they were 3-3. The Yankees, the Yankees are doing the Yankees things, and I'm always gonna be happy about that. We got no playoffs hockey because New York forgot how to play hockey this time around. So a lot is going on, a lot is buzzing about in New York. But let's talk about what really matters, and that is the NFL draft that is coming up this Thursday. We have a lot that we got to talk about, and I know I can't do it alone, so I brought in uh, one of my favorite people in this world, Jonathan, who is a fan of sports just like I am, and unlike me, he has always been sitting on the opposite side of the war room. I am a Giants, Yankees fan, and he is a Jets and Mets fan. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to have him here. Pete.
I'm excited to be here. I mean, the Mets did lose, so that's their 12th straight. Devin Williams, a former Yankee, blew it. It's been struggling lately, so I got no idea what the Mets are doing, but it's a good way to start, right? But yeah, I'm excited to talk about New York sports. It's my first time on a podcast, so I'm looking forward to just kind of spitballing with you and getting this done.
Sweet. All right. Well, let's get started with talking about the Jets. We have the draft that's coming up this Thursday, and we're both pretty excited. Coming off of last season, where like the Jets were 3-14. Was that season kind of like a surprise for you? Like the way that it started, the way that it ended, and still having the head coach as the head coach. Granted that like we saw this past season having like one of the biggest coaching carousel in the league, where I believe over 10 teams changed coaches.
I mean, when the Jets have a 10 plus loss season. I don't know if it's ever a surprise to a Jets fan. I think it'd be a surprise if we won 10 plus games, and we're an actual playoff team. But I mean, we did have a little bit of higher hopes coming in, with a new head coach, a former, Jet alum being the head coach. So I think we were high spirited going into it. Um, but it was a typical Jet season, so we played ourselves. Um, But I was surprised that Aaron Glenn didn't do as well as many of us expected coming from Detroit, where he was so successful coming off a playoff run with that team. So yeah, it was a little bit surprising.
Okay. I mean, like looking from the outside, I was surprised as well. Coming into the season, like he took on like the macho bravado, like head coach who didn't want to like give in to the New York sports media. So like when the season kind of like started going sideways, there, we are just kind of looking at him like like not exactly sure what to expect because like we expected that he was gonna have his hands in this team, and they were gonna start playing with his image, his strength, and like being on the defensive side, having like so much pieces on the defense, and seeing the defense struggle as much as they did was really surprising.
Yeah, I mean, we did have a lot of key pieces on the defense, some all stars on there, some all pros, but I think a lot of carryover from previous seasons. I think they didn't get fully on board with Aaron Glenn's style coming into, and I think that led to some of the trades down the season that led to kind of revamping our defense. What's going to be, getting rid of some of the key guys on there. So it made sense later in the season, kind of why they did it. It didn't seem like everybody was catching on. So I think Aaron Glenn needs some of his own personnel. I think some of the roster construction was a little bit not favoring him. mainly on the offense side, and then the defense didn't catch on. So this is going to be a big year for him to see now that he's bringing in some of his guys, drafting in the people that he wants to fit his his coaching philosophy. If those don't stick, then I don't think he has any excuses, especially being a defensive minded coach. And I think he didn't really make a lot of the defensive calls last season. So I think this year he's taken out more of that. So he really won't have any excuses this year.
I mean, one of like the biggest surprises during the season that we got was, like Sauce Gardner getting traded. How did you feel like seeing that? Like seeing one of like like I think we could say like New York's favorite corner getting traded because like even being a Giants fan, like I actually got to meet him, take a picture with him, and like he was one of the only known commodities on the defensive side that like everybody was hyped about.
Yeah, I mean, seeing Sauce Gardner get traded was kind of like the yeah, we're turning the page. Sauce Gardner was like a clearly a high draft end pick. I mean, he was all over Hard Knocks with Aaron Rodgers. They were doing like their I don't know the whatever trademark they had going with the um I guess what the joint I guess they were doing over there but yeah, he was all over. He was the face of the defense. He was kind of like also hip with the like all the young Jet fans had his jersey. There was number ones everywhere. So Sauce Gardner was the face. Plus, I mean he had a historic kind of first season where he was
Yeah.
putting up, I mean, all pro numbers, being an all pro. Nobody want. I mean, he was kind of like. I mean, everyone envisioned him as Revis Island number two, and that's kind of hard to live up to. And his after his first two seasons, it changed with him. His game. I don't know if it's injuries. I don't know if he got it got too big for him and he wasn't focusing on his game, but his game was not at an all pro level. So it was I mean, I'm happy with the deal that they made, getting the return considering that we sold him at his highest value and I think it was going to continue to lose diminishing it was going to be diminishing returns the longer he played because he wasn't tackling, he was not getting he didn't have an interception. He he was he wasn't as dominant as he was in his first two seasons. So
And immediately, as soon as like he went to the other side, he literally ended up getting like injured right away.
yeah, he tore his Achilles. So
Yeah.
I mean, he was on and off with injuries, and then tearing the Achilles was kind of like. So I mean, in the end, I think I'm okay with the trade. I'm happy with the returns. It'd be differently if we were looking at like a second round pick for him or something like that, or a second or
Mhm.
third pick. But getting a first round pick for him at where he was, and they needed to start changing some of the identities to get what Aaron Glenn wanted, especially if he's not succeeding under Aaron Glenn, who is a former all pro corner. You know, that's what he's known for with the Jets. If he's not getting the most out of him, I don't know if we were going to get the most out of him. So I'm okay with it. I'm happy with it. No problems with it.
Well, staying on the topic of trade, we saw like another trade this offseason where you guys traded Quinnen to the Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean Quinnen goes even more way back than Sauce. Sauce was more superficial. He's been in the past 3 years. He's been drafted with us. So I mean Quinnen's been with us. I don't even know how many seasons off the top of my head. I mean at least because he signed an extension, so off of his rookie, so he's probably like obviously 5+ years with us, and all
Mhm.
pro. He held down that anchor to that defense. We had a lot of defensive minded coaches, so he was an anchor there. So I mean, it was kind of tough to see him go, and he was such a good Jet. He had like that one of those big guy personalities coming from Alabama. Lived up to his draft stock, gave him the big money. Um, but I think when Sauce dropped, it was good to get the value we got for him. I mean, what first round pick in a loaded 2027 draft and a second round draft pick. I mean, the value, the returns was great. So I mean, sad to see him go. He was a great Jet, and I liked his energy. But again, the returns it was worth it.
I mean, so my two takes on trading uh, um, him of all the places, and I know you had to like maximize your like the most you can get out
Mhm.
of like that trade for him, but why did it have to be the Cowboys? Of all the people, of all the places you could have traded him, why did it have to be the Cowboys? Now the Giants have to see this guy two times during the whole, like, during the whole season, and this is somebody that we now have to deal with. Like, out of everybody, you just, I think it's like it's a New York's thing where New Yorkers hate New Yorkers, and it's like you could have sent them anywhere else. You could have. I bet you would never have sent them to the Patriots, would you?
I mean, I hope we wouldn't have sent him to the Patriots, but I mean, listen, we gave you Leonard Williams for like
You
nothing.
did, you did.
So I mean,
But even he
I
didn't
think it
even
evened
stay
out.
that long. We ended up trading him.
That,
Yeah, like we ended up trading him too.
that's on you guys. We just there was no other there was no other like Jerry Jones in the league that we could fleece for a first round pick and a second round draft pick because I don't know what Jerry's on, but I think he was an easy target. An easy target. I don't think Philly's making that deal.
No, I completely agree with you. Well, let's talk about, like, the some of, like, the off-season moves that the Jets, like, made. So they kept Aaron Glenn, which is a surprise in and of itself. Um, like Woody Johnson has, like, agreed to allow him to, like, make this offseason in his own image. We're talking about Aaron Glenn. Um, and like, they got a lot of, key additions, which some of them I'm actually, like, really excited about, like, Fitzpatrick and Davis. Like, you guys, like, had a really good offseason, in terms of, like, bringing in free agents, and like, what do you like? How do you feel about, like, how the Jets were operating this offseason?
I mean, honestly, I didn't know what to expect from the Jets. I mean, they had a lot of cap space, so that's number one. But they've never always utilized that cap space well in the past. And I think Mookie made some great moves. I mean, he got some great value. I mean, starting with Fitzpatrick in the beginning, picking him up for like a seventh round draft pick for Miami as Miami's dumping their whole team, and then getting these floor raisers with some of the defensive ends they got. I think it was like a Psy and some other ones on there. So you kind of added to the defensive line, added to the linebacker core because I mean we're going to be running the 3-4, so it definitely added some floor raisers on there to keep guys fresh. I mean who el- we I mean we got that defensive tackle in that deal that we traded away. Another big time first round pick that we took that year with Sauce. Why is the name escaping me? Jermaine Johnson.
Jermaine Johnson, yeah, yeah, yeah.
That was a huge deal to get that defensive tackle and plug that hole because we struggled against the run, and now they picked
Mhm.
up that D tackle Sweat, so shore up the run a little bit. So it was the offseason moves were a bunch of spending money, but at the same time, some
Mhm.
really like shrewd deals that he did. That I'm pretty happy with the offseason. It wasn't huge blockbuster deals. I mean, we also have Geno thrown in there at a very low risk deal. I mean, we're
Mhm.
not paying him big money. He does not taking up a huge money on our cap, and we traded it for a seventh round draft pick. So
And that's actually, like, the next avenue that I wanted to talk about. So you guys brought in Geno Smith,
mhm,
and like, coming off of, like, last year, him being, in Vegas, he didn't really have a really good, like, season. He didn't have a good season at all. He was injury prone, and we've heard we he was initially with the Jets, and like, he left
oh
the
yeah,
Jets, and rather disgraceful way, came to the Giants, and then eventually, like, um, made his way to Pete Carroll, and had a pretty decent, like, season with in Seattle. And everybody was kind of, like, dreading the fact that, like, hey, how come, like, we have so many people that, like, when we drafted them, when we brought them here, we couldn't get the best out of them. We're talking about Sam Donald, like, and then adding him to the list as well. And then they go elsewhere, and all of a sudden they become world beaters.
yeah.
Like,
Super Bowl champions, all
Super Bowl
Pro
champions. Yeah.
Bowlers. I mean, yeah, you're telling me. I mean, Geno Smith is infamous in the G-Men world, where he was the backup to Eli and came in when Eli broke
Yes.
his streak. I forgot which coach was that? He was it Judge or
No, no, it was before Judge.
um
It was now it's escaping me. I have like his face in the back of my head. It was the guy from Green Bay.
yeah, he had a weird name. Let's look it up real quick.
Mhm.
I can find it right now, I think. Man. I'll actually Ben McAdoo.
Ben McAdoo. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, Ben McAdoo. So yeah, I mean we are familiar. Honestly, on my list of the offseason moves, out of all the quarterbacks we could have gotten, I was kind of was hoping on maybe like a Kyler Murray, um, even like a Kirk Cousins. I was down to get like a vet come in. Um, Geno Smith was like the least quarterback that I wanted on our team. Uh, it ended in disaster when he left. He got
Mhm.
punched in the face by one of his teammates. Like
Yeah.
it was a joke how kind of his time here. But after we signed him and all the realization that he's actually going to be our Jets starting quarterback, I had to start looking for silver linings. And I mean, he's on an extremely cheap contract. Trade him for a seventh round draft pick. He's not taking up any space on our cap, which allowed us to do more acquisitions in the offseason. He's a vet. He has the potential to have a high ceiling when he what he did in Seattle. If he does what he did in Seattle in New York, it's going to look like one of the greatest moves. And it kind of has an ability to be a full circle moment, like a 30 for 30 on ESPN, where he ends up being the Jets, leading to the Jets to the playoffs or something like that.
Hmm.
And it has this like kind of fairy tale ending to like another part of his career. So I've come around. I hated it at first. I'm starting to like it. I will during the season give me like 2 games, and I'm probably gonna be like, this is the worst move ever. But where the Jets are, we couldn't come into the field with Justin Fields, and we lost that on Mendoza. So I think it was
Yeah.
the best case scenario. So I think I'm okay with it.
Do you feel like Geno Smith, you're looking at him kind of like a bridge quarterback, or
Uh,
if he has like a really good, like, first season with you guys, coming back and whatnot, like, would you like, want to like see more, or do you think like, this coming draft is your opportunity to kind of like, get a Ty Simpson or like one of those like lower quarterbacks and just have them sit down and kind of like learn behind them.
I mean, he's definitely a bridge quarterback for
Mhm.
sure. And if he doesn't become a bridge quarterback, great. Wow, now we have a starter. So if we do pull in another quarterback, we don't have to reach in the draft. This is not a strong quarterback draft. So Ty Simpson, great. I would love to actually have him on our team as a backup. There's no, I just don't like him at 16 or at 2. But if he falls to us second round, I mean, no, I mean, not our third pick. I think it's in the second round. We're in the first pick of the second round. I'm not gonna go crazy if we pick him in the first pick in the second round. Obviously, if we get him later, it's gonna be great. It'd be ideal. But yeah, he's definitely a bridge quarterback. And if he doesn't, if he does well, great. We'll take another season with him. Whoever we draft high in the draft next year, we'll just have a little more time to just learn under, just like you guys did with Jackson Dart. You guys gave Russell Wilson a couple starts, and then Jackson Dart came right in. So if
Right.
that was the same problem we have next year, I don't think, I think no Jet fan is, I think all Jet fans will be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay, moving on. So I wanted to touch up on like a story that was like kind of like permeate all throughout. So we heard about like Wink Martindale and how
mhm.
he like was initially going to be the defensive coordinator for the New York Jets, but eventually like you guys ended up like moving away from him and like having Glenn take on like assuming the play calling responsibilities of the defensive coordinator. Not you guys ended up hiring somebody, but they're not going to be like calling plays or anything like that. And the famous quote this offseason that Glenn gave us was that like it's his superpower. calling plays, because that's what he did when he was like the defensive coordinator with the Lions. So what are your expectations, with now him assuming the defensive responsibilities and kind of like using his superpowers to bring the Jets back to life almost.
Aaron Glenn has been saying a lot of stuff in the media this offseason, and I just feel like they just need to take a mic away from him. Nothing he says sounds that cool or sounds like uh, I don't know. I think Aaron Glenn just first of all his superpower should just be avoiding the microphone for sure. But I mean Wink Martindale, you said his name is. I mean, it would have been interesting just for the drama. I mean, just for people to like what we're doing now to talk about the fact that we took an old Giants defensive coordinator that had drama with I think it was Joe Judge or maybe
Hmm.
McAdoo
Um,
and brought him in, and then if he had success, it just would have been a great storyline, you know?
Yeah, no, he was brought in under like the previous Giants head coach, and then the two of them ended up like butting heads, and like things didn't work out. He ended up like I think he was trying to like create an uprising in the Giants locker room, because he was trying to favor his own guys, and cutting and undermining like the head coach. So he ended up having to just like we just couldn't have him in the locker room, and he wasn't gonna go quiet. He made sure he made a scene. So
Yeah. I mean, I definitely don't want that drama, but it would have been interesting to see the drama unfold in the media with like him and the Giants possibly. But in the end, it's good. I mean, they hired Brian Duker. I looked him up. I don't know. He has never had a defensive coordinator position before. He did work 3 seasons with Aaron Glenn in Detroit. Aaron Glenn taking over the um, defensive calls just makes me feel like he really is on his last ropes here on the Jets. He's like, I need to take on what I'm good, and I have no excuses next year if we don't do well on the defensive side of the ball. We're possibly going to draft a big time defensive prospect. We signed some defense along the way to raise the floor of our defense. So if the Jets come off and they have a 3-14 season and the defense looks miserable like it did at the end of the year, there's there's really no excuse for Aaron Glenn to say, that he or there's no excuse for Woody Johnson not to fire him. So I think he needed to take on the defensive coaching, do what he worked strong, and just let's see what happens. But I don't know. Show me. Show me you're good at it. Show me it's your superpower, and I'll be happy. So we'll see.
it's better than Rex Ryan coming in and being and trying to like throw his hat in the ring to be your defensive coordinator or your coach, because he desperately wanted it. He was really hoping that Glenn got fired.
Yeah, he was definitely pushing for it, but I mean, I think Jet fans wanted him. I mean, Jets fans would have been okay with it for a second. I think we're so desperate. We needed some kind of life or some kind of energy. But probably yeah, it's probably not for the best. Bringing him back. Um, but
Uh, uh,
eh,
I mean, um, transitioning from Wink Martindale, who was once the Ravens defensive coordinator, to New York Giants, who has just recently hired a new sheriff in town, bringing in John Harbaugh into
mhm,
our locker room to like be the New York Giants like head man. Like everybody is really excited about the opportunity of having this guy as our as our coach. He literally won a Super Bowl already and has been like the main reason why the Ravens have been as dominant as they've been. A lot of people are really excited and immediately put the Giants as a possible top contender for this upcoming season. And what I think is like really interesting is that I towards the very end of the season, I felt like both the Giants and the Jets were in the same category in terms of like expectations for like this upcoming season, with like people saying like maybe 4 or 5 games that the Giants could possibly win, and the Jets being in the same category. Upon hiring this guy, it immediately like skyrockets, where like everybody starts to talk about, oh well, we might possibly go to the playoffs. That we might have a playoff berth. Like the lowest win possibility is definitely going to be like 8 wins minimum. Like playoffs is in the horizon. How do you, like, as a Jets fan, how do you look at that, and you're just like, just hiring a coach can like change people's mindset and perception so much, like that they go from a 4 or 5 win team to a possible, like playoff situation.
I mean, it's kind of bummer that I mean, it's great that the Giants found their head coach. I mean, it's a bummer that we weren't looking for ours 1 year earlier, but I don't know if the Jets would have been a sexy landing spot compared to the Giants are right now. Um, I mean, it's great. I mean, as a Giant fan, I'd be excited. I mean, you have a legit Super Bowl winning coach as your head coach, who I mean, let's face it. I mean, even the Jets and the Giants, we don't have a really good track history of head coaches the past 10 years. We got Adam Gase with the eyes. You got McAdoo. You got Joe Judge. Like we got some real donuts for head coach these past couple years. So John Harbaugh coming in. Yeah, I mean, if I was a Giants fan, I'd be ecstatic. So hopefully he can live up to the expectations. It's kind of tough considering that you know, but he's got some pieces. He's got a quarterback. He's got a great wide receiver. So I think it's a good time to be a Giants fan and be excited about John Harbaugh coming in and doing his thing. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, but you know what? He does not have a defensive tackle. The New York Giants decided that they wanted to keep Dexter Lawrence in town, and unfortunately, he did not want to be here anymore. I think this is probably like a byproduct of our GM, who typically does an awesome job and the draft, but his negotiation skills sucks. And
Wait, do you think he's done an awesome job in the draft?
I I think his first draft was god awful, but his last two drafts have actually been somewhat decent. The Kayvon Thibodeau, Evan Neal draft, absolutely not. Like
Brutal.
I think he absolutely, like flunked that one. But last year and the year before that, I think he's managed the draft board really well. Like first, him getting Abdul Carter, who like started off like not as fast as everybody would have anticipated or wanted, but towards the very end, with a new defensive coach and Shane Bullen, he ended up actually like showing that he can play, and he ended up like what with around like 4 sacks last year. And
Mhm.
it's not a lot, but compared to how like he was being utilized in the earlier portion, which with Shane Bowen, who just did not know how to like run a defense. I'm sorry, I had been like screaming the entire year for this man to get fired, because I hated him as a defensive coordinator. I'm sure he's a great guy. I'm not coming at his character because I don't know the guy at all. But as a defensive coordinator, I was so outraged by the fact that like he came back and he was still our defensive coordinator. So but yeah, like during that draft, the Giants did an awesome job. Him coming back into like the bottom half, and then getting us a quarterback. Which is one of the reasons why John Harbaugh decided to even come to the New York Giants, is because he looked at our young quarterback, and he said that there's a future there. For all we know, he could have been heading to Tennessee
I
because that
mean,
was our
yeah,
big competition.
it's exciting when a Super Bowl Super Bowl winning quarterback chooses your team. That's good. Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah.
I wish he
And then
had a chance to pick us. Sucks. We picked the wrong offseason to find a head coach. I mean, there was talk so that they would fire Aaron Glenn for it, but you just can't fire Aaron Glenn for one season. I mean, the way they also let go of Robert Sala was kind of embarrassing, and it just if you let him go after one season, no head coach wants to come to the Jets. Like
Right.
why would he want to come to the Jets when
Right.
like the owner's gonna have a short hook on him? So
I mean,
it wasn't a good situation.
speaking of like letting him go, we should all just be really pissed off and jealous of Tennessee, because they ended up with one of the best offensive coordinators and one of the best defensive coordinators, who is now like the head coach, the Jets head coach and the Giants ex head coach. Like both of them got fired, and both of them decided that they wanted to go to Tennessee and go and work with with their young quarterback and their young nucleus. I am awfully jealous, because that is a match made in heaven.
So do two shitty ex New York ex head coaches equal one decent head coach? I don't know. I don't know
You
if the
see,
math is mathing on that.
I mean, I let me just say that I got to see the Giants offensive like coach, who is now
Hmm.
the offensive coordinator. I got to see him up close. Okay, he should have
Hmm.
never gotten fired. I think like he needed to learn a little bit more how to like handle a locker room, and how to like be a head coach.
This is
So
Dayball?
yeah, Brian Dayball.
Okay.
So now he's no longer the head coach. He gets to be in the role that he was always meant to be in, which is an offensive coordinator, right?
Hmm.
And it sucks that we couldn't just swap him out and be like, okay, you're not the head coach anymore. But we're gonna keep you and retain you as an offensive coordinator, because
Uh-huh.
that would have been beautiful.
Uh-huh.
And then with the Jets, your owner meddled in his affair. Your owner wouldn't allow him to actually be a coach, wouldn't allow him to like do all the things that he needed to do. So now he doesn't have a head coach, a head guy who is going to be meddling in his affair. He's in Tennessee, where everybody's a little bit relaxed. Everybody got the big boots going on, and they're all excited and happy, and he doesn't have to like worry about all of that. And he has an offensive coordinator that's actually going to be able to like um do offense, and he can
Uh-huh.
just do defense. So yeah, you might look at it and say like, yeah, two shitty New York coaches are going down to Tennessee, but Robert Sala is a very good defensive coordinator.
No, he is. Yeah, I mean, he did great after leaving the Jets in San Francisco. He went
He
to
did.
kind of old stomping ground. So, yeah, he is. We'll see if he makes any changes, on I think he just I, I, I think he was just too friendly and too wanting, buddy buddy with all the players, and I think he needed to really make hard decisions, and he wasn't for it. So we'll see if he changed. Maybe if he learned some things back in San Francisco, but yeah, we'll see.